another interesting article that came to me. I love to share it with you. It appeared in the Scientific God Journal in November 2016, Volume 7, Issue 9, page 556 to 560. This is from Mr. Pal, Spaceless-Timeless God and Quantum Entanglement. This is the abstract of the research from the journal. Spaceless-Timeless God and Quantum Entanglement. Himangsu S. Pal. Abstract. Quantum entanglement supports God's attribute of being everywhere in the universe at the same time. Indeed, mystics have repeatedly written about this spatial entanglement through their doctrine of interconnectedness of everything. Keywords: God, spaceless, timeless, quantum entanglement, interconnectedness. We say God is all-pervading, God is everywhere. God is everywhere means God is present at each and every point in the universe. Although God is present everywhere, yet it is not the case that God's presence is more at some points of space and less at some other points of space. Rather, we will say that God is equally present everywhere. We will say that God is wholly present, fully present, entirely present at each and every point in the universe. As the same God is present at each and every point in the universe, so the distance from any point of space to each and every other point of space should be zero, because the same God is present everywhere. One cannot be distant from one's own self. That the distance from any point of space to each and each other point of space is really zero has already been confirmed by science through the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. But the above is only one type of entanglement, and that is spatial entanglement. Mystics have repeatedly written about this spatial entanglement through their doctrine of interconnectedness of everything. Here's one quote from Bertrand Russell. The doctrine of interpenetration, according to which different things are not really separate, but are so merely conceived by the analytic intellect, is to be found in every mystic, Eastern, Western, from Parmenides to Mr. Bradley. So here's another quote from a poem by Francis Thompson, a British poet. All things by immortal power, near and far, hiddenly to each other linked are, that thou canst not stir a flower without troubling a star. Here both Russell and Thompson are talking about the phenomena of spatial entanglement only. When you stir a flower here on earth, a distant star in the sky is also troubled, because things by immortal power, here the flower on earth and the star in the sky, are hiddenly linked to each other. The separateness between the two is apparent only, not real. But if God is really there, then there should be another type of entanglement, the temporal entanglement. As in case of spatial entanglement, there is no real space gap between any 2 points in space, so in case of temporal entanglement, there should not be any real time gap between any 2 moments in time. Mystic Meister Eckhart, in 1260 to 1328, has written elaborately about this entanglement while discussing God and time. First, I will present some quotes from his writings. All that God created 6,000 years ago and even earlier, when he created the world, he creates all of them right now. There exists only the present instant, a now which always and without end is itself new. There is no yesterday nor any tomorrow, but only now, as it was 1,000 years ago, and as it will be 1,000 years hence. The now wherein God made the world is as near this time as the now I'm speaking in this moment, and the last day is as near this now as was yesterday. All that happened 1,000 years ago, the day of 1,000 years ago, is no more remote in eternity than the moment in which I stand right now. Again, the day which will come 1,000 years from now, or in as many years as you can count, is no more distant in eternity than this very moment in which I stand presently. From the above quotes, it appears that, as per Eckhart, in God there is neither any yesterday or any tomorrow, neither any past nor any future, but only the present instant. In the first quote above, Eckhart is saying that all that God created 6,000 years ago and even earlier, when he created the world, he creates all of them right now. Here we can see that first he used the past tense and then changed to the present tense. What he meant to say by this is that what is a past moment for us is not really a past moment for God. For us, the moment God created the world was 6,000 years ago, but for God, this moment of creation is actually the present moment. So for us, there is a time gap of 6,000 years between the moment of creation and the present moment. But for God, there is no such time gap between these two moments. These two moments are the same moment for God. Here we will have to remember that Eckhart was from the 13th century, and so naturally it was not possible for him to know anything about the Big Bang. However, if he were alive today, he would have said that God, the Big Bang, did not occur 13.8 billion years ago, rather it occurs right now. That means this time gap of 13.8 billion years is real for us as human beings only, but it's not real at all for God. Not only that, in the fourth quote above, he is also saying that the day which will come 1,000 years from now, or in as many years as you can count, is no more distant in eternity than in this very moment in which I stand presently. That means for God there will be no time gap, between this present moment and any moment that will come in the future. What all this means is that for God there is only one single present moment, and that single present moment contains within itself all the past moments as well as all the future moments. Whatever happens in the universe happens in that present moment only. For God, the moment the universe has begun and the moment it will come to an end is actually the same moment. Whereas for us human beings, there will be a time gap of several billion years between these two moments. It is not that Eckhart was the only person who had said such things about God. Before him, St. Augustine had also said the same thing. Here's a relevant quote from Bertrand Russell. God is eternal in the sense of being timeless. In God there's no before and after, but only an eternal present. God's eternity is exempt from the relation of time. All time is present to him at once. Here also we see that St. Augustine is saying the same thing as Eckhart, that in God there's no before and no after, but only an eternal present. Here I can also personally testify that what both St. Augustine and Meister Eckhart have written about God's timelessness is true, because I personally have an experience of what God's timelessness actually is. In the month of April 2009, on the last Sunday of that month, at about 8 p.m., I had this experience of God's timeless world. The first thought that came to my mind after having this experience was, God has got no future. Atheists will readily agree, because as per them, God does not exist, and non-existent God cannot naturally have any future. But they will be mistaken in thinking that, because I will again add, God has got no past. Actually, God has neither any past nor any future. God's own world is really a very particular one, where there is neither any past moment nor any future moment. Those who think that after their death they will definitely go to heaven and live there eternally should think twice, because it is really possible for us human beings to live in a world where there is no future moment. Is it really possible for us human beings to live in a world where there is no future moment? We have been made in such a way that we have been accustomed to live in a world where there is both the past as well as the future. So how can it be possible for us to live in a world where there is no past and no future? So theologians should think seriously about it before proclaiming that as humans we have a heavenly afterlife. And so, if God is really there, then it must also be established that there is no real time gap between any two moments in time, as it has already been established that there is no real space gap between any 2 points in space. This has also been established through the phenomena of temporal entanglement. For this one can read the article Quantum Weirdness Now, a Matter of Time by George Meister in the Quantum magazine here. One more point. Wheeler's delayed choice experiment was successful only because whatever happens in the universe happens in one single moment only, and the single moment being God's eternal present moment. About the God who was never there, it has been said that he, she, it is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. About the God who was never there, it has been said that he, she, it is spaceless, timeless, changeless, immortal, all-pervading, one, unborn, uncreated, without any beginning, without an end, everlasting, non-composite, and immaterial. About the God who was never there, we say that he, she, it is spaceless. Here science was having two options. One, it could have shown that nothing could be spaceless, or it could have shown how it is possible to be spaceless. Nobody has forced the scientists to choose the second option, but despite that they have shown on their own initiative how it is possible to be spaceless. About the God who was never there, we also say that he, she, it is timeless. Here also science was having two options, and here also not being forced by anybody. They have shown on their own initiative how it is possible to be timeless. Now, what would have happened if science had shown that nothing in this universe could be spaceless and timeless? In that case, it would have been much more easier to show that God does not exist, simply because God is spaceless and timeless, and because science has already shown that nothing can be spaceless and timeless. And we can now show, with the help of science, how God can be spaceless and timeless, so we can also very easily show how this God is changeless, immortal, all-pervading, one, unborn, uncreated, without any beginning, without an end, everlasting, non-composite, immaterial. This is because all these attributes are default attributes of someone or something that is spaceless and timeless. So although this God was never there, and although modern science also equally denies the existence of God, yet with the help of one of the modern scientific theories, we can fully, completely, excellently explain this God. Is it not really funny? All this has been possibly simply because this God was never there.